And don't do drugs, kids. Don't do drugs. Today's video, we're going to review one of the latest Granfondo. This is a Fuji Granfondo. It's sort of like a Roubaix. That's just a lot lighter than the Roubaix. It rides on my SL7 S-Works. This Granfondo, it's definitely stiffer. It feels like it's got a stiffer head tube area, stiffer bottom bracket, because the frame's a little bit heavier than the SL7 S-Works. This Granfondo feels like more of a race bike in terms of feel, stiffness wise, but the SL7 has a bit more an aggressive geometry, which you could sort of replicate almost with this. Anyway, let's go to the spec of this bike and I'll show you what the pros and cons of what I think of it. Appreciate these real, honest opinion videos. It's not corporate, I'm not here to BS you. This is, if you appreciate real talk, give it a thumbs up. If you want fake marketing, corporate crap, thumbs down. Let's get into it. Fuji is a Chinese carbon bike, similar factories to Specialized, Cannondale Trek, Pinarello, Cervelo, etc. So there's no doubt about the Fuji make a quality frame coming out of China, Merida, Factor, all they're coming out of China these days. They get shipped to Taiwan for assembly, less tariffs, etc. Let's get to the point. Great quality carbon, Fuji, underrated brands, as good as any brand out there. The bike feels very, very stiff. We've got a BSA bottom bracket. We've got a pretty standard sort of fork, nothing too proprietary. So what does that mean? It means easy to service bottom bracket. Any bike shop's just going to see that and go, wow, easy to work on. They're going to see this fork here, easy to drop it out to service your headset bearings, check the ring of death, etc. Just simple, pragmatic. The cables are out here, just easy to access. All this integrated stuff. It looks cool for Instagram, but it's a real pain in the bum to service and replace and inspect and check. So if you want high performance, get external stuff you can sort of see. If you want Instagram likes, then go the internal and nightmare stuff. Straight up. It's got an Ultegra, the R8000 series mechanical shifter, hydro shifter, with mechanical, a hydro brake with a mechanical rear derailleur. It's not DI2. The wheels, alloy rim, works really good. It feels lighter than they are. They're pretty heavy, but they feel pretty sturdy, but also roll pretty nicely. The fork feels nice and stiff front end. We've got a Vittoria Zafiro Pro in here. It's a 30mm. Rides pretty nicely. It's got the balloons up nicely. Got good clearance in the fork. So you can put a bit of a tighter fork in there. So fatter wheel. You got fender option as well. So it's a good all-round commuter, go anywhere, road, gravel-ish sort of stuff. The gear ratios are 50-34 on the front. So that's going to be fine for most flat areas, etc. If you're going more gravelly sort of stuff, you might want to put a 46-30 on there. Depends how fast you climb, what speed you're at. Rear cassette looks like we've got a 32. We've got the little plastic thing in there. What is that for? That's in case your rear derailleur is not set up properly and the spokes get caught in between. So the chain, sorry, I've had too much Nullarbor White this morning, can't talk properly. This protects the chain from getting stuck in between there and the spokes. All right, so I generally take it off. But yeah, people can leave it on, it's fine. Ultegra R8000 derailleur, these work really good. This can handle a 36. This is a GS type actually. This is a GS type, I think. Maybe you can handle a 40 cassette even. So I think it's a DS. They're very, very long. It's an S. If it's an SS, the biggest can handle the 36. If it's the GS type, you can tell on the back here. We'll have a maybe close look after. The GS can handle a 40 cassette, no worries. The R8000 derailleur. It works pretty good. It's got a new linkage design, just a bit extra for B screw angle. Can handle a bigger cassette because of that and because of this longer cage. But otherwise, it's got good tyre clearance. You could probably put a little rack on the back here, a tail fin or a fender on the back as well. It's got standard seat posts. It looks like a 31.9 maybe. But again, standard clamp, easy to replace, easy seat post to get. You could flip it around as well. So if you want more of a slam forward position, you can do that. So this is a great little bike if someone wants disc brakes. Personally, I don't like disc brake for road. This bike does have a bit of oil on the front rotor, which some shops would say you've got to replace. But in my experience, all you do, if you get some oil on the rotor, which for whatever reason it's there, maybe it's leaking from here, it's hard to say, just keep riding it and the oil will eventually heat off and evaporate up. Right now this front brake doesn't really work much at all because It's a contaminated rotor, but if you keep riding it, eventually you'll heat all that. If you keep using the front brake, that oil will just burn off and evaporate, okay? So some bike shops will say, hey, you know, you got to get new pads in your rotor, and that makes a sale for them. But in my experience, just keep riding it and it'll eventually start gripping properly again. But right now, that's the issue with hydro disc brakes on the road bike, is they can leak and get contamination from the road, or whoever, maybe you have olive oil in your salad and it gets on the road, and it's like, you know, it's a bit frustrating. So anyway, that's the deal. Honest review. It's a fantastic bike for what it is. It's a disc brake, road, fat tyre, you know, right over the roots and the gravels and stuff like that. It's not a bike I'd want to race, because it's like a disc brake. It's a bit more, it's not as electric feeling, but it's definitely a good, comfortable, you know, taller head tube, stack height. Stack height refers to this part here of the bike. All right. So if you've got low stack heights, you're more aero, it's more racy, it's more aggressive, it's harder on your back, etc. Higher stack height, less aero, more comfortable for a lot of riders, just a bit more easier posture-wise. And there we go. But yeah, this bike feels very, very good. It doesn't get the service it needs in terms of the service, I should say, attention, the respect. Fuji put out a great product, as good as any S-Works or Pinarello or whatever. It just doesn't have the glamour and the price tag attached with it, so people don't think it's as good as it is. But yeah, I like Fuji bikes, fantastic. If I was going to buy a Fuji bike today, I'd buy a rim brake Altamira or something like that, or rim brake Granfondo, which I'm not sure they didn't make anymore. But yeah, for what it is, a disc brake bike with good tyre clearance, a good value product. It's as good as anything out there on the market. It's better than the Specialized Roubaix because it's lighter and it's got less things to faff around. It's better than the Domane, Trek Domane. Fuji is better because the Trek Domane's got all this proprietary stuff and extra dead weight. So this would be the most racy of these Granfondo-y, you know, Roubaix style tall stack height bikes on the market today. Incredible stiffness, incredible performance, easy to work on. What more can you ask for a disc brake endurance style bike? I'd buy this bike if I wanted an upright endurance style bike. Yeah, I would. It's going to be the top shelf bike for that. But I personally don't like these bikes for my style of riding. I like my bikes like I like my women. Light, fast, aggressive, inspiring passion. You get on it and you're just like, I want to ride this thing hard. You know, and that's each to their own, right? There's each to their own. If I was going to ride across Australia again, I would take my race bike. You know, low, slammed, a stem I could flip if I had some back issues or whatever. But just, you know, just go on foot, get on the bike, and you know what you're doing. You know what you're there for. You're there to hammer yourself in whatever regard that could mean. But these bikes, these are great for people with the flexibility issues, or maybe got a bit of back problem or thoracic issues. The upright bike is fantastic for that. You know, so not everybody can ride that slam setup, etc. But for me, I recommend trying to do that. You know, having a bike that's at least under 7 kilos or around that mark, that is aggressive, that has the right gear ratios for you, has a power meter so you can really, you know what you're doing out there in terms of pacing. And then you know, and buy even two bikes, buying a bike like this and see if you vibe with that, or buy the, you know, the Duran Rider spec, climbing spec bike and see what you vibe with that. So it's about choosing what bike is going to make you want to ride it the most. At the end of the day, the best bike in the world is the one that you enjoy riding the most, right? So if you don't like riding it, it's probably not the bike for you. I'm assuming you're carved up, I'm assuming you're hydrated, I'm assuming you get your sleep and recovery and your positive self-talk. I'm assuming all those things that are there. But for me, it's the light, fast, sub 7 kilo or low 7 kilo rim brake bikes with that 1200 gram wheel set and just the 25 mil Conti 4000s or 23 mil 4000s on there. You just want to get on there and you want to take performance enhancing drugs because you're riding that bike. It inspires you to do that. Bikes like this are cool, they're great, they're fun, they're just cruising around. But if you want ultimate fitness, then you're going to go the fitness bike, the super lightweight, aggressive, you know, go for it sort of bike. Just saying.